For January 19th, we're talking about seeking, what we seek for in life. What are we looking for? We all kind of have this sense of that we're going towards something, that we're looking for something that we haven't quite yet arrived at. This seeking that we all kind of sense. What is it? Where's it coming from? And where are we going? Hi, I'm Candy. I'm a hypnotherapist who's deconstructing from evangelical Christianity, and I know how mindset shapes our behavior. So in this series, I'm going to share my daily reflections from 3 different devotionals. The Book of Awakening by Mark Nepo, and that one's a little more spiritual, non-religious. Also, Jesus Calling by Sarah Young, which is a very modern Christian approach. And My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers, which is a very classic Christian angle. My goal is to help you see how each one of these devotionals or these day books might shape your mindset a little differently. And if you're into that kind of reflection, please like and follow for more. Let's get started. So for January 19th in the Book of Awakening, Mark talks about how all the searching that we do is really just us trying to remember who we are. And this forgetting and remembering over and over is just part of the journey. We remember that we are one with Source, then we forget. So once you become, for lack of a better word, enlightened to the understanding that everything is, we're one with everything, we're connected, we all come from the same source. When you finally happen on that truth, and then how wonderful it is, you still get tangled up in forgetting. And he talks about how the things that help us remember are slowness. So like meditation, things where you think of like slow, that Zen feeling, when time feels like it slows down and you're really just in the moment, you're in that present moment. Softness, when someone's soft with you and gentle, and there's a tenderness in the moment. Or surrender, just realizing you can't control everything and letting go. And sometimes there's this just trust that it'll all work out. That is when we remember who we are. But when we're in a hurry, when we're in hustle culture, it's easy to forget. Very easy. And I've been in both sides of these and swing back and forth sometimes in one day. Hardness or harshness, when we're hard and we're rigid and we are not open-minded to something, causes us to forget. Or fear causes us to forget who we are. And when we forget who we aren't able to make the best decisions for ourselves and for those around us. We're making decisions based out of fear, or because we're rushed, or because we don't want to reap harshness from somebody else, or fearing their judgment. So remembering who we are is what we're really searching for. We're not searching to find ourselves. It's to discover ourselves. It's underneath. It's inside. We have to go within, or we're going to go without, which is a quote that I heard a long time ago that really has stuck with me. And I don't know who said it. But the saying is, if you don't go within, you will go without. Meaning, if you don't look within yourself, you're going to miss out on so much. So when we do finally go in, when we're willing to look there, when we're able to look there, we find out that we're one. And you can do this even just by, if you think about where you came from physically. You came from your parents, who came from their parents, who came from other parents, and you keep going backwards, and eventually you've got a common ancestor. Now, those in evangelical Christian would say we came from Adam and Eve. Fine, we came from 2 people at some point. Common ancestor. That's really what that is. And you don't have to believe in evolution to believe we can't have a common ancestor. And if we all have a common ancestor, we're all from that same ancestor. So, and it's not just us. We all branched off from it. And you go back to the very beginning. of the tree of life to the very, very first thing that ever existed. So you go back to plants. Plants eventually, I don't know all of evolution, and I don't know all the science on that, but I know that you have simple life forms, and the very simplest started it. And then things got more complex, and we just built it, evolved into what we have today, and we're still evolving. So understanding that we all come from one source. So this would apply whether you're in evangelicalism or not, that there's this source that connects us all. And when you remember that, kind of changes how you view others. They're not separate from you. When you do something, it affects those around you. How you feel about yourself has a ripple effect on how you relate to others. So Mark's point is to keep that in mind as often as you can, because that is what you're searching for, is just that discovering who you really are, remembering. And slowness, softness, and surrender are your keys to unlock that door. First, self-awareness is where it starts. In Jesus Calling, Sarah says that if you seek Jesus' face, you will find more than you ever dreamed of. I have no idea what this means, but when I was in evangelical Christianity, seeking Jesus' face was, I don't know, you just imagine Jesus a lot. You keep your mind focused on Jesus, which once again is so subjective to the type of Jesus you've been taught to believe in. So this one's just so, I don't know, what does it mean to seek his face? Seek what he wants you to do. I'm sure that's probably what's being implied. And then she also talks about Jesus being the goal of what you're seeking. If you find him, you'll be satisfied. This makes me wonder why so many Christians are still seeking. When they find him, they're still trying to please him. They're still, they don't feel satisfied. There's constant seeking, and it's because of what the book Awakening mentions. They haven't remembered who they are. They believe they're a sinner deserving of hell, deserving of punishment, unworthy, enemy of God. And so you'll seek, if you believe that, then you're going to seek for someone to fix that problem. And instead, the problem is you believe that you're separate from God. That was the problem in the Garden of Eden. They first, before they could bite from the fruit, before they could take the fruit, they had to believe they were not already like God, even though God had said they were made in his image. So that's my view of what that story is actually saying. The problem was not the eating of a fruit and disobeying God's command to not eat of it. The problem was they believed they were not like God, and so they were trying to find a way to be like God when they already were. And coming to that understanding and realizing that you are made in the image of God, that you are not separate, that's when you finally kind of come home. You stop seeking. And when I finally found that, I stopped looking. I once told my dad, after deconstructing, like, as I started to become more self-aware and kind of understand myself in a whole new light and had this spiritual awakening, I said to my dad, I found what you've been looking for. He didn't want it. So that's just where he was at the time. So, she also mentions that God's nature is to bless and yours is to receive with thanksgiving, which I guess that's all fine and good. But I think our nature is to bless too. We bless those around us. And because we're one with Source, one with God. And we also can receive with thanksgiving because we have a constant state of gratitude. It just changes everything when you understand who you really are. But the idea that you are one with God, even though the Bible does teach it, is evangelicals don't like it. And finally, in my utmost for his highest, basically, his point is, Oswald Chambers' point is that you don't need to be seeking anything. Your job is to be still and listen to God. He will give you the vision and he will bring it to pass. There's no need for you to be seeking for anything. Once you've found God, now basically just shut up and wait. And don't be trusting in the blessings he gives you. Trust in him, which I get it, not holding on to the things that the good things that you get in life, because you got to hold everything loosely. But this just creates a sense of like, I don't know, this, you can't really enjoy anything, almost shaming somebody for enjoying something because, you know, you can't. You need to focus on God. Don't be liking that too much. Don't enjoy that gift too much, because I mean, and there was that kind of feeling in evangelicalism, at least I experienced it. So I think the main point, one of the things he said in this was like the discipline that we get. So the struggles we go through, which are being disciplined by God, it's so that we'll know that he's real and we'll believe it beyond even common sense. So, I mean, you can attribute anything to God, but you could attribute it to anything else too, because you cannot know for sure it was God. Someone could say that was, from a different religion could say that was my God that did that. Or, and neither of you could prove it. So proving where things come from or the things that happen to you don't prove God. I think just common sense, if you really think through it, is you come to the conclusion of oneness, that we are all connected. How I feel about myself affects how I treat others. How I treat others affects how they treat others. There's a ripple effect. And we see it with the planet. How we treat the planet, it affects all of us. Animals, plants, and humans. We're all interconnected and we need to care for each other, love one another, love the planet, care for it. So I just feel like this ignoring common sense and you're just believing in this thing because you want to believe in it, even though it goes against your common sense, like it doesn't make sense. Like it would not make sense. Like a child who figures out about Santa Claus, they start to, at a certain age, they start asking questions like, how's he getting to every house? How's he making all these toys or whatever? Like, how does he know what I want? How does he get into the house? All these questions they start asking. So they start to use their common sense, their critical thinking skills. Well, this is almost teaching to shut off critical thinking skills, which in evangelicalism, I feel like they stunt your critical thinking skills. Mine were stunted. They turned on when I started to actually think. That is part of what started my deconstruction. I started using critical thinking miraculously, for lack of a better word. So I just feel like it creates cognitive dissonance, which leads to like a religious psychosis or something, some sort of mental health issue that I think a lot of us who have deconstructed know people who suffer from that. And it's very hard to talk with them when they have this type of thinking, because fear and doubt they're so terrified of that. That's so wrong that they won't even discuss the points that you make. They can't. So that's all three of those books. Take what works for you, leave the rest. I hope today you find some slowness, some softness, and some surrender to remember who you are. Have a great day. Remember, you get to decide what you devote your thinking to today. You might not be able to control every thought that comes in, but you can definitely decide what you entertain. And whether it comes from something I've said today or something completely different, choose wisely and set an intention that truly benefits you and those around you. And if you found any value here today, don't forget to like and follow. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And let's keep our minds on what helps us love ourselves and each other a little bit better every day.